What is in store for Canadian business in 2024? 2023 was a rough one, but with a new year comes new opportunities. What are some of the most important things to look out for in 2024? Are market forecasts looking up in comparison to 2023? Or are Canadian businesses and that market more generally in for a repeat of another tough year? Those are some of the big questions we are looking at, and joining us now to help break all this down is Brewndan Caldwell, Director at Caldwell Securities Ltd. Brewndan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Happy New Year, Julie. Good to be here.
Brewndan, we have heard that there are 5 things to look out for in 2024 regarding Canadian business. Let's go through them. The first one is inflation and interest rates.
Is that one or two?
No, that's one. They're both on one.
Fair enough. Well, inflation has been the cause célèbre for central banks globally, but particularly here in North America. From having kept inflation quite low for a very long time and interest rates quite low for a very long time, central banks, the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada here, have raised short-term interest rates as a way of slowing down the economy, slowing down the demand for money. Interest rates are the price of money. So if you raise the price of money, people demand less of it. The economy is, in theory, supposed to slow down. However, raising rates isn't of itself inflationary, because it just means one of the components of buying anything, the cost of money, costs more. So it may or may not work, depending on a lot of factors, the chief of which is whether the central bank and the federal government are working in lockstep. Anytime the economy slows down, the federal government worries that it'll cost them their jobs. So Parliament issues new debt. So we have a little bit of in Canada, at least, and the US too, our foot on the brake and the accelerator at the same time. That all having been said, I think lower interest rates in Canada are a possibility in 2024, but I don't know they're going to start coming down anytime soon, because inflation is still pretty robust. And I think in the United States will remain quite robust. I don't think interest rates are getting cut there anytime soon.
Okay, so number 2, the markets. What can we look forward to?
Well, the markets really went on a tear the last couple months of the year, particularly the stocks that did well kept doing even better, largely on the idea that if they did well when interest rates are going up, they're going to do even better when rates are coming down. Again, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. I think if to the extent markets went up on the prospect of lower interest rates in the United States, particularly, it isn't going to happen. So I think that the market may do well this year, but I don't think it's going to have one of those stratospheric runs like we've seen, particularly amongst the higher multiple high-tech stocks we saw in 2023.
Now, there's also a lot of talk regarding housing in Canada. What can you tell us?
There isn't enough of it, which is weird considering how big a country we are and how few people live in it, relatively speaking. I mean, a country the same size as China, where they managed to house 1.3, 1.4 billion people, we're having trouble housing 40 million. So but everybody wants to live, obviously, in relatively close to someplace where it's not freezing cold all the time. So in around Toronto and the big Vancouver, the big centers, there really is a real shortage of housing, and it's going to take concerted efforts amongst both the building industry, the rental industry, and governments to actually turn that around. So not sure how that's actually going to work itself out. So I think housing prices will, and the cost of housing will remain quite robust.
Okay, the 4th is energy. There's a lot of talk regarding oil prices. What are your thoughts?
Well, the issue is that nobody wants the old style carbon fuels to do well, at least nobody in government. No, let me rephrase that again. Nobody at the federal government. There's certain of our provinces that would do very well out of it. Indeed, Canada as a whole, it's our biggest export. It makes up a huge part of our foreign currency earnings, because oil is, of course, denominated in US dollars. Hopefully, we manage to get energy pipelines to blue water like the Trans Mountain pipeline, but that seems to be indefinitely delayed. So I think energy prices will continue to be strong simply because nobody's really looking for them. And until we find real viable alternatives for fossil fuels, there's going to be continuing demand and constricted supply. That is a recipe for higher prices.
Okay, finally, I got 20 seconds. Artificial intelligence. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we're still very much in the early stages. Toronto is a leading center for that. There's a company called Cohere that's big in generative artificial intelligence. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what Canada's role in that global phenomenon, and it will be a phenomenon, remains to be. So probably another episode we should do just on that. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.